Hey folks, Valentin the Mad here, and today we'll be looking at the character responses in Door Kickers 2. It isn't nearly as fun as the destruction, but as you can see, it is a factor, and in this video we'll have a look at what's there. Alright, as for the big mutilation, the response for anything bigger than a gunfire wound, than a grenade explosion, is gonna be the following. And yeah, we're gonna be having plenty of examples of that right now. I think him right here might be the clearest example. Yeah. Didn't have anyone run to that location, so... As I was saying, plenty of examples, but we'll focus on this one. So, what you're basically gonna be having is the character turned into several stains, pretty sure the same ones you have used for gunfire, and into a bunch of gibs. Primarily, generic chunks of meat, of various sizes, as you can see, some are bigger, some are smaller, but also this boot, as you have here, it's also a character gib, and this thing is actually a head. You can't tell it very well from the top-down perspective, but if you go into the dev mode, into the first-person view, it's actually a head. Here we have one as well. So, as you can see, well, there's no variety of responses. Basically, every devastating explosive impact is gonna be turning a character into the same generic gibs. So no variety of responses. As you can see, a pretty cartoonish response, not a good one whatsoever, and yeah, that's basically what you're gonna be having for big explosions. But it does have two things going for it, to its perhaps credit. First of all, you won't be seeing it too often, so this thing right here, it's not proper gameplay of Door Kickers. It's a mod to essentially give you almost semi-auto rocket launchers, and it's basically made for just this, dicking around, for lack of a better term. So, you won't be having it too often. You know, you have the bomb vest guys, so when they explode, they'll turn themselves into this stain and generic gibs, and anyone in the immediate fatal blast radius. Which ain't too bad, and the other one is rocket launchers, and those are basically... I think, you know, I'm not a big pro in this game or anything, but you probably won't be using them for shooting at characters for the most part. At least when I was playing it, it was primarily to blow open a hole in a wall, and... So yeah, so the two things it has going for it is you won't be seeing it too often in actual gameplay. And the activation is not terribly obscene actually, so let me just showcase. For example, for a regular grenade explosion, you're just gonna be having the response you have for non-dismembering damage, so... As you can see, he wasn't gibbed. Now that you can't take that for granted, we had, as you've probably seen on the channel, at least in the past, several games where a frag grenade, or even a fire extinguisher, would turn a character into a response not too far from what we have here. At times even a worst looking response, so... Yeah, so the activation is not terribly obscene, but you actually don't even gotta have a direct impact on a character to turn him into this generic Gibbs response. So even if he's on the outer edge of it, he's still gonna be gibbed. As you can see. And perhaps the one other thing it has going for it is flying gibs. When they land on something, it can be kinda funny, so you know, we have a meat chunk on a sofa. There was this one instance, I think I may even have it on video. I may edit it in, but I keep the guy, and I think both tables were intact, and I had a meat chunk land on a plate, which was pretty funny, so that's the other thing it has going for it in this regard. Now as for the non-dismembering response, we have a few showcases of that right here, so do want to draw a few more in for the very initial showcase. Yep, they are coming, they are coming. Alright, so the response by the damage wise is gonna be essentially a few pre-made splatter patterns. The one that immediately kind of jumps out is this armpit one. You see it repeat all the time, you see here on this guy. Armpit stains, armpit stains, armpit stains. And there are some other ones too, like patterns on the arms. I've seen a few patterns on the chest, the stomach, so yeah, the response is just gonna be activation of a generic overlay, activation of pre-made wounds, to be more precise. And you know, it isn't great by any means, yeah, once again. Armpit pattern, stomach pattern. So, it's not good response by any means, but I think in a game with this kind of a top-down perspective where you really don't have a great deal of control over where you shoot, yeah, you're not even directly controlling the shooting itself by any means, so it doesn't feel as bad as it does in other games, but once again, kind of like perhaps with the thing I was mentioning in the destruction video, it would make a difference if you actually had bullet simulation and you would see the bullets impact various things on the environment, and you would see the response exactly where you hit the character. So, while it doesn't hugely stand out as a big massive issue, as it does in some other games, I think it would still make a difference if you could have a response at the very spot where you hit the character, and not this. Alright, as for the blood spilling, the response you'll be seeing is a bloodstain on every single impact registered on the character. And I do mean it, absolutely every single one. So for example, he kicked a door in, he broke it, he kicked it in. If you would have a character standing here at that moment, you would actually see a one of the non-dismembering patterns activated on him, and you would actually see a stain for that as well. I do actually have a clip of a character being punched, you have a stain for that punch, and there are stains for the gunfire rated as well, so as I'm saying, a stain for literally every single impact. Perhaps I could use some nades to activate a few impacts, so yeah, let's do this and see what that does. So yeah, so as you could see, even some non-fatal impacts, they did activate stains on this guy right here. He did have some stains activated, and this guy as well. As you can see, he wasn't killed, but we do have a stain here on the wall behind him, and there on the floor behind him. And as you can see, the stains will be staining the ground and the environment, so the table here, the fridge here, a little bit on the wall here, and probably, yeah, let's... the door here, the wall here. So yeah, so the initial response is gonna be very, very consistent. You know what, perhaps actually... Yeah, no survivors. Nowhere to run. And seemingly they weren't even planning, so as you can see, we have it now painted a little bit more, some on the wall here. I think maybe this one, yeah, we definitely have a few stains that weren't there before, so the initial response is indeed gonna be very, very consistent. However, as you can see, there are issues, so what you will have is essentially only the initial response. So for example, this guy, he was shot, we have the response for the gunfire, but then he falls, no blood pools or anything like that, those guys as well. The walls are painted, but nothing below them. And yeah, let's see perhaps one more example. So, sometimes they will fall in a way that kind of, you know, like, doesn't look bad with the... That kind of gives you a good aftermath feel, along with the stains you have for the very initial response, so... Right here. As you can see, he fell right into the stains and doesn't look bad, I think. And speaking of the aftermath, so as you can see, we have every single stain stay, every single body stay, but that isn't what you have by default. So by default, I think they kind of get turned into this white outline, kind of like a like marking a dead body with chalk after you kind of like get him away to kind of like mark where the dead person was laying. But you can configure them to stay, there is a config. I will have a guide on how to do it in the video description, so you can get every single body to stay, not via the options. There is no such option in the config menu, but you can make it happen by tweaking an INI file. We end with the animations, and what you're basically gonna be seeing is this. A brief transition from the character's regular, alive and kicking state into essentially a death pose. And perhaps of all things in the character response side here, that's the one's gonna be feeling lacking the most. So, body damage wise, as I was saying, unless this guy explodes on you, you won't really be seeing a whole lot of the generic obliterations. So for the most part, body damage wise, you'll be seeing these pre-made patterns on the characters, which ain't a great response by any means, not a good one at all. But in a game like this, with the top-down perspective, where you don't have any direct control over the characters, it will sort of, kind of, almost do. Blood spilling wise, as I was saying, you have perhaps at times even several stains for the impacts, as you can see. Sniper shot, and there definitely was more than a single impact here. So you'll be having a very consistent response for the initial impact. No blood pools, but if the character lands correctly, like this guy here for example, doesn't look all too bad, right? This guy though, as you can see, a blood pool here is pretty lacking. Those guys too, also, isn't quite right. But this one, also like, not bad at all of an aftermath, and as I was saying, every single dead character you have here can be configured to stay. And it isn't hard to do. So yeah, so you have a blood spilling wise consistent response for the impacts and the full aftermath. But the one thing that will absolutely stand out is the transition from the alive and kicking state into the death pose. That one's really gonna be feeling not good at all, so that is what we have. Hope you enjoyed the video, do let me know how you feel in the comment section, and subscribe, lots more to come. Until next time.